This is the place to be.
Yeah. This is the place to be. Yeah. Innovationdays.
Hello, this is Morten from English. I apologize if it's a little bit dark and grainy in my face in the background here, but it's a little bit late here. But it's early morning in Utah, where I'm talking to my good friend Diaz from HB. So good morning to you, Diego.
Good morning, Morten, or good evening.
What time is it actually in Utah right now?
It's actually not very late. It's almost noon.
Almost noon. Okay, so I was a little bit. I should have called you a couple of hours ago then. Well, the reason why I wanted to talk to you, Diego, is because you have had a very, I would say, central role in HP the past couple of years, and I know that you have been extremely involved, and also I know that you're very proud of what you have achieved in the collaboration with a Dutch company called Movigo Robotics. Where you have developed a robot that you showed at D-Scoop and at also Drupa. And I guess that you are still taking orders in on it and still very excited on continuing the journey with robotics. But before we start talking about the robotics and the AGVs that you've been involved in, maybe just give an overview of your background for people to understand that you have been on, let's say, the PSP side as well, and understand some of the pain points that they are facing today.
Sure. So yes, so I'm Diego Diaz. I know over the past, two decades or so, I've owned and run print shops from very small shops, little $1 million size shops with a handful of what I would call overgrown office copiers that I was using as production printers, all the way up to one of the largest online digital printers in the world. So I've owned and operated many of these companies, and eventually now have bounced back and forth from the supplier side into the vendor side. You spend enough time on the vendor side and you get that idea of, ooh, I could do this really well. And then you jump to the producer side and then go, oh, but I need this in the market that doesn't exist yet. And you jump back over to the vendor side.
Yeah, and I guess that you have been both clever and also quite fortunate that you have got positions where you have been able to develop some of the technologies that you found important in the workplaces. Before we talk about all the robotic things again, I'm a little bit curious because, as you mentioned yourself, you work in small companies and in large companies. When you look at, because you have also on English written a lot of articles. And you have visited us quite a few times, and I always enjoy your insight, especially since you have such an in-depth understanding and knowledge of both the business side but also the technical side of workflow automation. When you look at the smaller and the larger companies, do you see that the need for automation is the same regardless of size of company, or how do you see the differentiation between these two types of companies?
So the need for automation, I think, is the same on both a very small company or a very large company, for different reasons. But the need is the same. The ability to afford it is not the same, and that's the big differentiator there. But a small company, certainly, as you're reaching those points where you're trying to scale, there comes points where you need far more labor than you can afford. And where you need far more capacity than you can afford. And there are times where if you have the right skill and you make the right investments, then you can get a greater multiple out of the capacity and productivity that you would get by investing in automation than you would get by hiring people. Ebbs and flows.
Yeah, I understand that. The reason I'm asking is because, if you are a big company and you can afford these investments, basically you make the difference between the small ones and the big ones even bigger, and therefore I think it's from a industry perspective always interesting to see how much you can actually enable smaller printing companies, family-owned companies, maybe up to, let's say, maybe from 10 people, 5, 10 people, 20 people, organizations, get them involved in the both in the software side of the automation, but also in the hardware side of automation. Because I think that in the long term, we also as an industry have an interest in having not just a few players, but more players, both to split the investments in new technology, but also because there's a very, very vast diversity in the products we can offer. So if you look at, let's say, the development of the AGVs that you have been involved with HP, where do you see the starting point, let's say, number of employees, type of applications, and revenue-wise for printing company before this is really interesting to look into?
Sure. So, again, I'll say realistically, when I'm looking at who can afford them, oftentimes that's going to be, businesses that have 50 total employees or so, or more, are the type of businesses that have easily the cash on hand to make big automation purchases. Smaller companies, of which the majority of our industry is smaller companies, it's small mom and pop shops. It's a much bigger consideration. That's where you're often deciding: do I invest in this piece of automation, or do I invest in this critical finishing device that I need, or an upgrade of my press, something that is core to the absolute function, not just an improvement of the function of your business, but core to the absolute function of your business. And that makes it a lot harder of a decision, but in my eyes, no less critical. Where there's actually a huge need for smaller companies to invest in automation is when they're trying to make that decision to add another shift. That's where oftentimes you're not just adding one person. You need to add, multiple people. You need to add a pressman. You need to add someone in bindery. You need to add someone in shipping. You need to add a pre-press person to get the files. So now you're talking about adding a whole bunch of people whenever you're talking about adding one more shift. And that's where automation can really help bridge that gap. And where you can also make one person as effective as 3 or 4 people on the floor when you have both physical automation and digital automation working for you.
It reminds me a little bit because I hope you don't mind that I mentioned competitor brands here, but I take my chances with you. I remember I did an interview with Heiko van Gaal from Canon when the iX was introduced to the European market. And I couldn't help think about, because I asked a very stupid question. I hate myself for doing it, and now I'm almost doing it again with you, because I thought that an inkjet device were for the larger companies. And his response, and that's why I'm interested in bringing this up to your attention, his response was quite genius. He said it's not really about size of the company. It's actually about what kind of business plan you have for what kind of products and applications, and how you want to go to market with these. That should decide what technology you use. Do you think he's right, first? And secondly, do you think that if we think like what he's explaining, that it actually opens up for more opportunities also on the robotization side?
I think he's 100% right there. And I hate to put it in these terms, but it's basically if you're in a growth mentality, then automation becomes critical to smoothing the ramp of growth. Otherwise, you often have to make these kind of stair-step investments where you're spending and you're profitable, and then it stair-steps up to the point that now you have to spend this much further, but you're going to be unprofitable until you get there. And making these incremental automation moves smooths that stair-step. It makes it easier, so you're not having to hire on whole shifts and then hire managers to work with them as you're expanding, as you're growing, or as you're expanding a location. The kind of physical automation that I'm talking about also can help you stay in a smaller plant longer and with more money without having to up your physical footprint as well. So it's these things help smooth that stair step and make it more gradual as you're needing to grow and needing to expand.
When you talk to PSPs that are potentially interested in the robots, what are the pain stakes, both from why they are not buying and also for why they want to buy? So you get, let's say, both sides of it, right?
Um, so I would say I've yet to run into anyone actually so far that truly walks away and they're like, no, that we're
Okay.
not even interested. We're um,
Is
if
that
anyone
because
is
you, when you come from HB, is that because, I mean, you have customers of all sizes? So when we spoke about customer size before, then when you have a project like introducing robots as the first OEM, that is, I mean, together with MPO, I think that you're the first one that actually bring printing OEM branded products to the market. Is that because you can go to the bigger ones and then start exploring the opportunities with them, and that's why you don't get the no's? Or have you also, just for the fun of it, started to work and talk to a mom and pop shop just to see the reactions? Or, I mean, do you get my point?
yeah, no. Obviously, I've talked to most of the large ones around the world and faced very little resistance there. Usually, that's how soon can we get it. Um, but no, I've absolutely wanted to see how far down the market goes
Mm,
and make the case to mom and pop shops as well. And again, um, there hasn't been anyone that has heard the case that has no. Uh, As far as everyone says that they are indeed interested in it,
mm.
it's just a question of do they have the available funds to commit to it?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Because, I mean, one thing is what a let's say one AGV cost, but often it's required to have more than one to really take the benefit of these machines. And secondly, it also requires a lot of, let's say, structuring and processing, and maybe also some software requirements that need. So it's like, it's not like going down to the supermarket and just buy a TV.
No,
It's a
no,
complex
it's
process, basically, right?
yeah, it's not a Roomba, unfortunately,
Yeah.
and the very first one involves quite a bit of implementation, and after adding your second one, your third one, your fourth one is much simpler
Mm,
than the first one that comes in. But um, it used to be a much harder calculus to have it make sense. But I have to say, and part of the reason why I've pushed so hard on this is after the pandemic, the incredible rise in wages that we've seen makes it so even a mom and pop shop, it
mm,
justifies itself fairly quickly.
mm. 2.5 years ago, approximately, you knocked on the door um, at a Dutch company called Movigo Robots. And I think that before you did that, you probably spent quite a lot of time on investigating who are the players and who could be a potential partner for HP. What was the journey? What was the requirements when before you even started engaging with Paul and his people? How did you go on with that?
Well, and to your point, this is something I've been investigating from back when I had my own print shops that I was running as well, and I did more than just investigate. I bought conveyor systems. I hired people to do it manually. I hired dev teams to put things together. So I've been exploring this for many years. But after firmly landing on the idea that mobile robots was an important part of this puzzle, when I looked at all of the mobile robotics companies out there, what I found is that most of them were firmly focused on automotive um, or logistics, warehouse logistics, or um, a lot of them involved in more kind of pick and pack grocery store or Amazon type logistics back and forth. And I knew that print would have special needs. Print would have needs that those current markets weren't serving. And I wanted to find a company that was willing to customize their solution and willing to build things specifically for print. So that meant really going through the market, talking to who's the best of the best, what are the best of the best technologies that are in place, and then who was willing to custom build machines. And
So you made a decision to work with the Dutch company Movigo Robotics, and a question is, of course, like, I mean, understand that you have, of course, a huge understanding and knowledge about, let's say, the printing side of it and all the workflows and the APIs and the integration points, and also how a physical workflow operates in a printing company. But you go to a company that may not even have set their foot inside a printing company before. So how do you actually move forward? I mean, because I mean, I guess they have visited some printing companies to see what's actually going on. But how do you start a process like that?
Um, hand in hand. Hand in hand is how you start a process like that, where I've always been a firm believer, and this was the case when I was, hiring pressmen and bindery people and things like that. Is if you have the right work ethic, if you have the right passion for the things that you do, then don't worry about the technical side. I can teach you the technical side of print, and I've built some very successful printing companies on that mantra. And I would say the same goes in this relationship, as far as they had the right passion for excellence, and they had the right, it was a good cultural fit. And they also had all the right core technology in place. So the idea of them needing to learn print, that's okay. That's where HP are experts, and we can teach them that, and we have taught them that. And we've spent the last 2.5 years bringing them into all sorts of print shops, even ones not even as candidates, just to observe and watch and see how what makes print different than any other manufacturing industry.
Were they? I maybe should not ask you, but I ask you anyway. Were they starstruck when HP called them?
HP has an incredible reputation, and not just in the printing industry, but across the globe in many industries, and that's certainly a wonderful thing to leverage.
Okay, let that be said, right? Diego, now I remember when we met in Indianapolis for the pre-Drupa and the D-Scoop event, and that was like the first time that you in public, I think, was showing the robots. And I remember that the evening before, everybody was a little bit stressed because you of course you want the demos and everything to be set up and work the best possible way, and then you have to adapt software and even the electricity and all these kind of things. How much fun and how much stress and how much anticipations did you have when you had to show it to me and to the public and to the D-Scoop members for the first time? How was that?
Well, the good thing is when you get the right teams together, and this is something where HP R&D and Movigo R&D have been working together for quite some time now, and even in the beginning of the relationship, started working together from day one on putting these solutions together. So we actually did quite a bit of testing and quite a bit of both software testing, hardware testing. We did a lot of transporting the machine into our demo rooms and doing testing in the middle of the night to make sure that everything would work right. And this is important in any polished solution that we want to offer our customers. Is we need to. It can't just be something that we're buying off the shelf from, Movigo and then saying, okay, this is going to plug in with our presses. No, it's been years now of in-depth testing and integration to make sure that it's a polished solution we can offer our customers.
And then the door opens to D-Scoop, and hundreds, thousands of people come into a show. How was that?
That was good. That was very good because we ended up getting orders directly there on the floor. So it was exactly the impact that we wanted. And it's this is an important step in my eyes because it's something that isn't often talked about. When we talk about presses and press sales, everyone talks about speeds and feeds and what's a click cost and what does the total machine cost. But there's several aspects that we don't talk about enough. And one of them I'll just throw out there that has nothing to do with the automation side, but we don't talk enough about paper cost. And that's a huge part of the impact of any sale. And we don't talk enough about labor cost. And the fact is that when you're looking at a total cost of ownership, it's not just the speeds and feeds of a press. And one press is not going to be the same as another press in terms of paper or labor or electricity or any of the other things that we often don't talk about.
It's funny you mentioned that, because I'm pretty sure you have seen it, but we made a film from a packaging company in Berlin in Germany some years ago, where they had, I think it was 3 Koenig & Bauer presses and then an entire Bob's lineup of die cutters and folding gluing machines and things like that. And by the fact that they could have AGVs bringing the paper and the plates forth and back from the machine, the CEO, Klaus Madsen, he basically said that they calculated that the utilization of the printing presses grew 26%.
Right.
And if you think of this for any printing company, maybe not extending it to the extent that I think that the Bernard Group that you work for and also Galene are 2 examples of maybe the most automated companies in the world in the printing industry. But even if you got 10%, then you start to see that if you buy an Indigo for X millions of dollars and you can have a 10% better utilization of the machine, whatever a robot cost will soon be paid off, right? And that is like those kind of measurements that I think that too many are looking away from, because they think, it's also a robot. And, Lisa that has worked for us for 20 years, she will probably stay another 20 years or whatever, right? And and that was also the reason, because as I told you, this interview is part of an interview that I did also with Paul from Movigo, right? And as we talk about that, it's like super interesting to think of that. Now you have technology where you basically you get rid of heavy lifting, which can damage your employees' bodies, right? But it also means that you get high productivity of the machines. You can also move people to more valuable work and make your company more profitable. You have maybe even an opportunity for lights out production that we've been talking about for years. And maybe you will not do it in a full shift, but maybe you do it in a half shift, whatever, right? Which basically, again, utilizes the machine's uptime even more. And I mean, I guess that from an HP perspective, I guess that HP is, of course, interested in having so many clicks as possible going through the machines. But that is just part of the equation, because it also makes your customers way richer. And if you can offer something that is so automated, and for people that have not seen these machines, just so you know, guys, you see an AGV with a forklift kind of thing. It goes to the press. It watches whether the press is ready to be loaded with new paper, and if it's still producing, it just calmly wait. When it's finished, it takes off the leftover papers, measure how much paper is left, bring it back to the warehouse, report back to the MIS system how much paper it brought back, put in the new pallet, remove the finished pallet in the other end, bring it to the finishing station or the waiting station or whatever it needs, and tell the machine, you can start, you have the right paper for getting these jobs done. And all of that in an automated, operator-free process. And I'm probably not getting the depth of it because it can do way more. But just to put it in perspective, just think of this, right? Just imagine that you could do that with your analog presses. Just imagine that you could do that with every digital press you have in the world. How much more money you can make on it if you can just utilize the capacity, right? It is amazing, Diego, to be honest.
Yeah, it's something we've been talking about for a long time, which is lights out production. But this is the real deal. At Drupa, we ran the 120K where the operator was doing presentations, but not running the press. That's the robot was running the press. And
so, are you saying now that all pressmen they should be taught how to make 120K presentations? Is that what you say?
Here's the thing: is I've done a lot of automation in my career, and I've I've automated pre-press at multiple companies. I've automated customer service at a lot of companies, and in all of my experience, I've never let go of anybody. I've never had a robot or the automation take someone's job. The fact is that especially post-pandemic, and with how expensive labor is and with how hard it is to find skilled labor these days, most shops I know are not they're not brimming with too many employees. They are struggling to scale because they can't find enough. And this, I don't look at this as a replacement for the operator. This is a promotion for the operator. It's not using human skill, talent, and ability to tow a pallet jack, or to lift paper and unwrap paper. None of that is what our bodies are built for, and it takes a wear and tear and toll on our bodies. But now, when an operator can become a supervisor of multiple machines, and they're walking from machine to machine, making sure that everything is going well, making sure that the quality is as good as it could be, which these days we have some amazing tools there too, as far as camera systems that are monitoring that, but there's still so much of it that's subjective. As far as do we pass this, do we not, is the maybe the color is different, but is it wrong? So there's a lot that's subjective, and it turns that manager, that operator, into a manager, where now they're supervising their fleet of robots that are running the presses, and they're just checking and making sure that everything is running properly and as efficient as it could be.
You were one time, you've been a couple of times in Denmark, of course, but one of the times you were giving a presentation in Odense, and you were not very, very well because you got some sickness on the plane. But still, I think you said a lot of reasonable things about automation and workflow. And one of the things you told me at the time was basically that you always been very open-minded about workflow automation, because at the point where people start copying you, you were way ahead of them again. Is that a similar situation for HP right now?
Yes. I mean, this has been, first off, again, I was working on this before I was even at HP, and this has been years in the making, and HP has invested heavily in this. And I'm sure there will be other companies that follow. Like I said before on the previous video, I say good luck. We're not staying stagnant in this, and
so more robots, more features is what to expect as well.
We're moving this further. It's again, the robot is a part of the solution. It is not the solution, and this is about the total solution. Has everything as a part of it. The software is a part of it. The press is a part of it. The robots are a part of it. And we have more robots than just these mobile robots as well. We have a whole portfolio of them. But all of this.
But you're real. You're real, right?
Yes. For now.
You never know what comes out of America, right? So.
But it's all about being able to listen to what the customer challenges are and to have the right toolbox to meet it. And this is one of many tools that we now have in our automation toolbox.
Another thing that people also know about you, and we're soon ending this interview here, but one of the things that I'm pretty sure quite a lot of people know about you is also your let's say, I would say, passion for APIs and able to make solutions that fit different companies, because different companies have different needs. And Paul told me that of course these robots and the software managing these have a lot of API endpoints and things like that. How important and how difficult is it? Also, let's say that you come to a printing company where they have people that they have programming skills and let's say very good at in focus switch and APIs and MIS systems and all that. All the buzzwords about it. How difficult is it to get yourself involved with controlling these robots in a complex environment?
So we absolutely built them so that it can talk to nearly anything out there. And if the company doesn't have that internal talent, we can provide that as well, as far as we can
So that's a
bridge the
service
gaps.
that HP can even help them with?
Yes.
Okay,
Yep.
fantastic.
Where we can bridge to almost any MIS ERP system, and then the customer can use that MIS or ERP system to control the robots as they need to. We've made that very, very easy. So that can be done. Same with workflow systems, whether that's site flow or switch or anything like that can generate tasks. So there's many different ways to generate tasks, and we've built the system so that it can either be completely enclosed and completely standalone and still work very well for a customer, or it can be as tied in and integrated with their systems as possible. And I also want to make it very clear as well that, look, will the robots always work best and furthest and be most deeply integrated with HP presses? Absolutely. We designed them that way, and like I said, it's one part of the solution, and the press is another part of the solution, and therefore having those things work very, very tightly together is very important. But do the robots work only with HP presses? No, they work with finishers, they work with offset presses, they work with all sorts of things, and we're already installing now on many, many different pieces of equipment.
And that is, of course, good to know. It's, of course, also understandable that when you have full control on everything from hardware, software, and integrate that into Print OS and your own software, obviously you have more control of things. Is let's say the lack of features that you say that can be limited to HP, is that more because the competitors are not open to integrating to you guys, or is it more like a business and political decision that there should be differences, or why is it like that?
I would say it's simply that we can always move fastest with our own R&D.
Okay, because you simply have everything in-house, so you can basically, so let's say that you create a feature and then you put it in public to everybody to take advantage of, but at that point you have already developed it, so therefore you have a competitive advantage. Is that correctly understood?
It's some of these things take quite a while to develop and are very difficult to develop, and like I said, where we've been doing this now for several years, and a lot of our competitors are just looking at getting started with it. But in the end, we developed the solution for our customers. And therefore, what our customers need is the goal of what we're looking to achieve. And we understand that our customers run mixed fleets, between offset and digital, between flexo and integration with a finishing device can be just as important to a customer's workflow as an integration to their press.
Great insight, and thank you very much for sharing it with me and the English audience. Something completely different and still a little bit related to it. There was a CES show in Las Vegas just a few weeks ago, right? And one of the things I noticed, of course, was the NVIDIA new tools and chipsets and things like that, which they also sell as being components in future robotics. As a HP is also a PC manufacturer, and I have seen some of these Enrique Laura's statements about having built in AI in all of the HP products in the future. Do you think that these, let's say, technologies like NVIDIA and AI also will play a role in how fast you can develop technology that adapts to our industry better?
Absolutely. It's the computer, the hardware, networking plays a big part as well in making these robots work. And the fact that we as HP are not just a press manufacturer, but also a computer manufacturer and manufacturer of a lot of these component technologies, that's something we leverage every day. And unfortunately for a lot of the rest of our print competitors, that gives us an unfair advantage that we also happen to be one of the world's largest computer manufacturers, and we do get to leverage that. but it does play
And
part in keeping costs low and keeping the technology cutting edge.
when you see the humanoids that are from a lot of different companies, and of course also the Tesla bot, are you not worried? I know you're never worried about things like that, but do you think that is something that will eventually have a role in a bindery as well?
It's a very interesting topic, and I will say I always try to keep an open mind throughout my career. I've eaten my hat multiple times where I thought I was pretty sure about something and then changed my mind. So I always try to keep an open mind, but I will say right now, again, my opinion of today in 2025, at the very beginning of 2025, may change later, but my opinion today is I don't see it as being that practical. And the reason why I say I don't see it as being that practical is because when you look at true industrial print, if I was just talking about, your office copy, your FedEx print level of printing, sure, I think it could be very practical there. But when I look at industrial printing is done in large volumes. And even when we're talking about jobs of one, books of one or anything like that, we're still producing those in very large volumes at very high speed. And that means that we are operating in rolls and pallets. And the human body is not very well configured for moving rolls and pallets. This is why we have forklifts. It's why we have pallet jacks. So I think copying the human body when the human body is not the ideal shape to begin with, I don't see that as being very practical in industrial print. I think it has a place in many other areas, but not true industrial operation.
Fantastic. Thank you very much, sir. It was been wonderful 36 minutes here. So again, Diego, thank you for always being available for English, and I appreciate everything you said. So thank you very much, sir.
Thank you.